Hey gang, it is Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018, and for those of you that have followed along in the last couple of videos, I've showed progress on remodeling the shop. Insulating the ceiling with the spray foam, I'll do a shot of that, and also doing this wall and the back wall of the shop. I haven't focused on the opposite wall because it is in the shade and doesn't get direct sunlight. As you know from the previous two videos, during this remodeling, I also talked about getting the new air conditioning system from Mr. Cool. So I'm going to do my own install of this system. It comes pre-charged. The instructions tell you you can do it all yourself, and that's my plan. I'm going to put it all together myself and show you how I do it. I know there's some pieces that I'm not a licensed electrician, but I feel like I've done enough electrical work. I can follow the instructions here and do what's needed to make it happen. So that's what this video is going to be about, and let me show you exactly what I'll be working with. Now, as you can see, I haven't opened the boxes yet, but I want to show you, what you get when you order one of these. This is a Mr. Cool do-it-yourself 24,000 BTU air conditioner with heat pump built in. DIY 24-C-HP-230A. The first box I'm going to open is the indoor unit. I don't know if you know this, on the back side of these straps, I used to work in shipping at Kmart, or actually receiving at Kmart, and you pull these little tab on the back, you don't even have to cut them with a razor. You just flip that over, grab that tab, it weakens them, and then you can take them apart. Just a little tip. Looks like the bottom, yeah, it just sits on top. Nice. You can see how heavy the interior of that box is. It's got a real thick cardboard inner liner, so that's cool. This is a template for the bracket that's going to mount on the wall that's going to hold that unit, so that's pretty nice as well. Looks like it's got the remote in it. That looks like a little remote carrier. That would be handy. Batteries. Some zip ties. So we'll see what that is when we get to it. And then that's the line that's going to attach to the outside unit. And that'll be the front that'll face the inside of the shop. So I'm not going to do any more with that until I get the other one opened up. So there they are. Oh, can't get a hold of those. There's like 3 layers of cardboard on the inside of this box as well. I think that is the wall pass-through. That's the drain tube. Oh, this has some, it's like rubber feet you can put on it. Here's an Allen wrench. See what that does later. It says neoprene ROHS. I don't know what that is. Feels like if you've ever used products that we would call Dum Dum. It's like, it looks like a, I won't say a wax, but like a clay kind of feel to it. So we'll figure out what that does. I'm sure that blocks off a hole or something at some point. There's the back side. Really nice looking. I'm impressed so far. But that's as far as I can go at the moment. I'll have to gather some materials so that I can start doing the installation. I know that particular piece is pretty heavy. I don't know what I want to guess, but it's going to be a two-man thing to move around. So I'm going to go through some of the instructions and see what I need for materials. Hopefully this will give us some perspective, because I was envisioning this sitting a different way, and then I realized this isn't the part that sits against the wall. It is this part, and it has, this is the bracket. I didn't know where the bracket was. And then I looked in the end, and here is that connector with a ground wire. So if I continue to roll this over, you can see that per the instructions it says you can run the drain out this side, or you can come out this side. And I kind of like the idea of coming out this side. So I'm going to take the bracket off, and there's a screw right here. Take that screw loose or out. There's little catch tabs down here in this, on the bottom of the bracket. You push down on the plastic and that'll come out. Same way here, and then that comes out. And there's your tabs that it actually mounts to. You can see them right here. Hopefully see that. And then that bottom part hooks in. So that is what I use, and when I put the cardboard up, I'm going to put that, that's my reference point with the cardboard. So now what I want to look at is take this out, expose it, hold that thought. This feels really rigid here in this corner. I may not have a choice. This may have to go out this side. But I have to expose the drain. So let me do a little more investigating. I don't want to bend anything and mess this up. Those are hard lines right there. And so that's definitely something I need to be cautious of. But I believe I could probably attach the drain hose. As you can see, I'm sweating already. Attach this drain hose and have it all go out that side anyway, but I still have to attach it. So I've gone to Lowe's and I picked up some bags of concrete and a 5/4 piece of pressure treated wood that I'm going to build a frame out of, and this will all create the base for the condenser unit that's going to go outside. I'm not sure where I left off on the other sequence, but I wanted to point something out here. I did notice, I was curious how much length there was to the coolant lines. And as you can see, that's pretty long. I did roll those out, and it's about 22 feet, maybe even 23 feet. So it's not going to be any big deal to come out of that wall up there and drop, I don't know, probably 8 feet or so, and then go back a little bit where I'm going to put the outdoor unit. I'll have material left over. Now with this do-it-yourself kit, from what I've learned and researched, I mean, you're not going to shorten these lines. They've got fittings on them already, and basically you coil up the excess material and put it behind the condenser unit or wherever's convenient. So there are some other things I'm going to do. There's a and I'll show that later on at some point, but when the line comes out of the wall, there's a trim kit you can get that creates a box around the line, just kind of dresses it up a little bit. But one thing I wanted to point out, you know, in the instructions it shows this cardboard cutout, and it has the hole pattern, which we know that's correct. And you can see there's 2 holes So you can take this line and turn it out. So in theory you'll gain some more length, but I don't want to do that. I want to leave it the way it is and have it exit on this side. Now when I got this, and I think I showed this earlier, this bracket was attached and there was a screw right there holding this on to the back side of this wall unit. Well, when you look at that, in my mind I think, well, that's got to be where it sits centered, but it's really not. You can move this left and right. That screw is just for shipping purposes. So if you were to align this dead center on these tabs on either side, you know, it still locks in down here at the bottom. There's a little tab down there. It's kind of hard to see. Maybe on this one, you can see there's a little tab it locks onto. But at this point, I'm going to probably have to go back to the hardware store. I need a 3.5 inch hole saw, so I'll have to cut through the wall with that. And of course, I still need to run all my wiring. And I did find out, I was a little confused. I think I may have mentioned in a previous segment. I thought that this unit got the power, and then it went out to the outside unit because I saw this connector, and that's what's on the end of the hoses. But actually it's backwards to me, or not backwards, it's the correct way is to bring power out, and of course it'll strap in here and connect to these lines or these terminals, and once power is applied in the condenser unit, it'll go, you know, back out and follow the lines back and put power on the inside unit. So I have to get a few more pieces. I'm going to put a cutout switch on the outside, and beyond that I have to pick up those other, you know, tools and stuff. So I'll just keep on putting it together. Okay, so the plan for me, because I have a header in this area right above the window, I need to go slightly above it. So I've already measured that off, and I know that it's 10.5 inches from the opening of the window. So 10.5 inches is this location. I've also put a basic center line, and now what I'll do is I'll use the cardboard template and I'll try to center it on the window. And again, I want to go slightly above, in my case, that header, because I don't want to have to drill a hole through that header panel with that 3.5 inch bit. So that's why I'm doing this. Also, I'm using a bubble level, and I'm going to make sure the template is level. And I'm also, because I know there is a stud right in line on this side, I'm going to put a couple of pilot holes just so I can indicate that later on whenever I go to actually put the bracket in place. So that settles that. I'm above that header, and I'm just going to make some pilot holes. Now on this side I'm not as fortunate. I don't have a stud close by, but I still have to make some pilot holes because I'm going to put some inserts in there. And I'm also going to make a pilot hole for where I'm going to drill the 3.5 inch hole for the plumbing. And I can also, because I know there's another stud 16 inches over, I can locate that later once I get the bracket in place. So I did install these little inserts. I'm not exactly sure what size the bit was, but I just referenced the drill guide to pick out the drill bit that I wanted. So now I only used 2 of those inserts, and that was on the paneling part because I have the stud over here like I was saying earlier. Now, because I do have that other stud right up here, I'm going to add another, I'll drill a hole, because I would rather have a secure location on one side. Make sure I have my safety glasses on for drilling steel. Although you should wear them all the time. Yep. Okay. Now, since I have to bore a 3.5 inch saw, or bore a 3.5 inch hole, I need a hole saw. So I went to Harbor Freight and I picked these up. Now, I know these aren't your high dollar stuff, but that's okay because it's not likely I'm going to use these very often. But even if you bought just the cutter itself, you still need the tooling to make it operate. So this kit comes with a whole variety of sizes. You can see from 3/4, 1, 1 1/8, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, all the way up to a 5 inch. Comes with a small and large mandrel, pilot drill, drive plate, and of course a case. So here's the 3.5 inch as it's requested for the part of the instructions for the air conditioner, and of course the mandrel. And this has a threaded Allen hole in it, and that's to secure the pilot bit. So I'll assemble those, and then it has this secondary piece which goes together as so, and I believe that helps give it some strength. It may have another purpose, but at this point all I'm worried about is it doing its job. So I'll tighten that up with an Allen wrench, or a crescent wrench. But as the instructions say, it wants you to drill at a slight angle. It doesn't want a straight through hole. So I'm going to angle this slightly as I drill through the first panel, and then of course try to mimic that straight on out the outside wall. So we'll see how that goes. Now, of course, I do have fiberglass in the hole. I'm going to see if I can't get an angle. Oh, look at that. Nice. And there's my hole. So now I have to put the plastic insert through that. Let's take a look at that on the outside. Yeah, that worked better than I expected. Nice clean hole. Good. As you can see, I still have a bunch of vines and junk to get out of here, so I'll probably take care of that before I actually install the upper head unit. I wanted to show you some of these instructions, just so you know. It's talking about mounting the head unit, the interior unit, hanging your plate, drilling your hole, which I've done all that. Then it talks about connect the piping. Well, this is a do-it-yourself kit, so this isn't something you actually do. On this unit, it's already connected. Same way with the wiring, it's already connected internally. Now, it does talk about preparing your drain hose. and attaching it and then wrapping all of that with some tape. But I haven't seen any tape, so I don't know if it means I'm supposed to do my own tape. I'm not sure. But then it says, you know, mount the indoor unit, and then it breaks it down into the, you know, the parts of that indoor unit. So that's fine. I can do all that. I'll have to figure out what they want for the tape, because again, there's nothing in any of the packaging that has tape. Secondly, this is the tube that goes through the wall, and I've already put it through the wall and did a test mark on it so that I can see what I need. And basically I have to cut that off, you know, after I marked it, and then the exterior piece just kind of slides onto it. Again, I don't know if it is implied to be glued or not, but I don't plan to do that. So anyway, I have to cut that off. It's not a problem. Well, then we have the drain tube, and at first I was confused because I thought there was no exposed end, and I thought all of these joints were one piece. You know, I tried to pull on them and they wouldn't come apart. And then I found, after looking through it several times, there it is, that connection. So now I can take apart the tube, interlace it with the plumbing work that's going to go outside, and then, like I said, it says tape it all together, but I don't know what to tape it with, so I'll have to figure that out. Okay, I'm ready to give this a shot, and all I did in this case was put some black tape at different intervals to try to have that drain hose follow along. I'll have to put that up through the wall and work it up. I may have to go get some help so that I can do it all in one shot. Pull a little bit. Okay, pull. Okay. Okay, hold that thought. No, don't pull anymore. In fact, push in a little bit. Oh, hold it. Hold on a second. Can you push in a little more material? I think I got it. Well, that was a bit more of a struggle than I'd hoped it would be. I had my wife outside pulling on the line gently in order to help it get up there, but as you may have seen, I pulled this chunk out of here. I know this was a part that I already looked at that could be removed, and after I removed that, it gave a little more relief to that corner. If you look closely, you can see the edge, hopefully you can see the edge of that sleeve that goes through the wall. Well, that lines up with that, that little corner piece, but it doesn't specifically say remove this corner piece. But as you can see, I think that's what it needed. So now that that's out of the way, the outside, I will eventually put a cover over all of this and run it down beside the window, but for now I just needed to get it out. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of length. So this area over here, that's where I'm going to form up my pad and get it in place as quickly as I can. Looks like I've got some bad weather coming, so that may hinder my effort. I'm not exactly sure where I left off, but I wanted to show you where I'm at right now. There's the line. Like I said, there's a good bit of length on that thing. And there's my form. And again, that's 5/4 decking boards that I'm using, pressure treated. And the plan is I'm going to leave those in there. I did dig it out and get it down in the ground a little bit, as you can see by the piles of dirt, and leveled it out. And I'm going to mix up basically 3 bags of concrete and get it in there, level it out, and that's going to be my base for the condenser. Well, I have the condenser set on the little concrete pad that I poured, or actually mixed up and poured myself. I did add a cutout switch, and I have the wire in a waterproof exterior liner. I still haven't done anything with the actual lines yet from the interior unit, but I'm getting things hooked up and things are going pretty well. I did set this post in concrete so that I could mount my cutout switch, and then if I decide to later on, I may put a second post on this side and then build a little cover over the top. Just trying to think ahead and set that at a good height. I think it's 24 inches from the top to any kind of obstruction. So everything else is coming along good, and I hope to have the wiring done here shortly. I didn't realize, and I had a follower tell me when I grabbed this breaker, or this cutout switch, I didn't realize it had fuses in it. And so I'm going to have to go back to Lowe's and get some fuses. Other than that, things are going pretty smooth. I do have a line set cover that I'm going to put over that line. So before I finish hooking up the electrical, I need to get that taken care of, because there's a long flexible piece that goes over that whole tube, and obviously you can't put that on after you have the connections made. This is the line set cover kit. I did get this off of Amazon, and I'll see if I can find the part number and post it. It seemed to have pretty decent reviews, but let me get all these pieces out and show you what comes in the kit. Okay, so that's everything out of the box. And basically you start at the top. This is coming out of the wall. This will go up behind the line, and then this snaps down over it, creates that top turn down. Then you've got these long pieces. There's 4 of those, and I believe this ridged section here goes against the wall, and then this piece locks into that, so it kind of creates a box. And you can see that will hook into, those 2 pieces hook together on either side. So that's pretty simple. You've got some, looks like some joints. Again, 2 pieces, one into the wall, and then this one attaches to it, like so. That's pretty simple. And there's 4 sets of those. You got a corner piece, I guess, if you want to turn it sideways, which you'll need to. And then I don't know if this piece over here is like a, what exactly that is. It's kind of small. Maybe that's set up for a smaller line, I don't know. And then there's another elbow here. Now, I will say I expected this to be a lot longer and kind of extendable, but it's not. So I guess I'm kind of stuck with about 20 inches of flexible sleeve, but I thought it would be longer, kind of like a dryer hose. but I guess I'll just have to deal with that as I go along. Yep. And then there's some zip ties in there and some inserts and screws. I guess if you had a mason, concrete wall or masonry, you can insert those and attach. I'm going through vinyl, so I'll just be screwing straight through my vinyl. And I'll get those in place and go on from there. Okay, I started to install the line set, and it's fairly simple. I just ran some screws through in random locations. Probably, if you really want a super nice finish, maybe you want to install the line set prior to bringing the line through, because it's really hard to get screws in up at the top, with the line in the way. But otherwise, it's fitting fine, and I'm just working my way down, and I'll cap that off up there, and I probably have enough line that I can put the hard shell around it and run against the base of the building, but we'll see how that goes when I get to that point. So there's the line set as I have done my own style of installation. As you can see, that lower piece, I actually angled it down because I want it to drain. And there's one more section I could add, which is part of the piece that I cut off to make that section, but I don't see any gain from it, so I'm not going to add that piece or the flex piece. I'm still wiring, just about got it ready to go, and I'm now going to connect these lines. Just a quick observation, normally you would expect really tight caps, but these are just finger tight. This one's a little bit tighter, but not much. And those other two, same thing. I could just take them loose with my fingers. One other thing, I'm using these dry fit connectors up here, and there will be another one here in the base of this where it attaches to this. However, you cannot use one with this fitting. This will just fit through this hole, and you can see that the line hole coming through the plastic is smaller, so you're not going to fit that connector through. So I think what's going to have to happen, once I get this in place, I will put some of that neoprene, that what I would call dum-dum, around that hole. I don't know if I really gain anything by it, because really the whole unit is open. I assume there's going to be critters and stuff that want to try to access it, but I may do that as because here's the connector, and it's right there. So, and I see this little loop right here. I'm not sure what that is meant for, because if you look at if you can see, basically that comes out and goes straight up, and it's so small that you're not going to fit your regular wiring through it. I mean, they'll go through it, say this is a case, but it's not going to do anything. So I'm not sure what their intent was there. And maybe, again, I think this is designed to be primarily in Europe, so maybe they have something different in their wiring that they use. But I'm going to get these connected, and then get that wire and the other wire up through and connected as well. Okay, I have the lines connected. I have my electrical connected. I got my fuses in place. I still have to put some clamps on that line to make it straight, and I'm getting ready to open up the valves. What's interesting is the way this is set up. It has these Allen heads inside. There's a little cap, there's covers that thread onto these, and so the instructions say to, once you're all connected, stick an Allen wrench in there they supply it, and open that up till it stops, and open the second line. I'll do that. Reinstall the covers. And then it says check for leaks. So in this case, spraying on some Windex. Sorry. I don't see any bubbles forming, so I'm going to assume that it's okay. Now I'm going to go back in the shop and put the power on. It is now about 8:20 at night, and I bought a thermometer, and this one's reading about 86 degrees in here, somewhere in that range. So I'm going to cut the power on, and one more thing I wanted to point out. The instructions are okay. They're not great. I've got these two screens, and there's some pictures in the manual, but they don't say where it goes. I mean, I flipped the top up on this thing, and I just don't see anywhere for the screens to go, those extra screens. So I'm just going to close that back down and see what happens. Now, I haven't tried this before. This is saying 76, but I don't know if that means anything. Oh, that opened up. Maybe that's my, oh, that's the set temperature, 76. That's what it says. Okay. So I can bump that down if I wanted to. Alright. That's pretty cool. I've got my my digital gun here. It's reading 80 right now, 79. So we'll let that go a little while and see what it does. Okay, little observation. I don't know if my drain tube wasn't angled quite right, but I had a bunch of water running out of it. I've already wiped the table down, but it was soaking the table. So just something I had to play with and readjust. I did set the temperature at 66 degrees, and what I found is, oh, wait a minute. There we go. What I found is, basically it dropped, seemed to drop the output temperature. So I'd venture to say, you know, if I'd lowered it down to, you know, 62 or something, it might try to do that. And it's definitely making a difference in here. There was a lot of water that was pouring out of it, so I think I may have corrected that. We'll find out here in a little bit. Yeah, that's better. I came outside, checked my drain tube, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a nice flow of water coming out of that now. So I'd say it's okay at this point. And just an observation, this thing is really quiet. I mean, all I hear is that fan barely running. I like it. Just wanted to give you a little update. It's 7:30 in the morning. I've left this run all night. It is actually a little chilly here in the garage, which is fine with me. I've got a temperature on this thermometer is showing about 67. And I did close off the door to the paint booth, so I kind of just want to get an idea. I can definitely say it feels a little warmer back here. And I do have a thermometer on the wall. That one's saying 72, 73 maybe. So definite difference in how it feels in the shop. And I'm going to experiment, with the temperatures and stuff like that, and letting it run. But for now, it is nice and cool in the main shop, and I'm pretty happy with that. But I'll check it this afternoon and see what kind of numbers it comes up with. Okay, I'm pretty happy with what I'm feeling as a result of this. Currently it is 11:15, and you can see the sun is coming in pretty hard and heavy on this side. If I measure the front door, it's measuring 106 degrees, so that's pretty high. The side door, now of course that's an insulated door, 78. And if I come over to the thermometer, it is a pretty comfortable 72 in here. I'm happy with that. I'll go to the back shop, and again, I've had this isolated. Back shop is 77, 78, but I can feel the heat more, obviously, in this space, and I'm pretty impressed by what this unit is doing at this point. I did have some observations on this thing. I did the segment where I installed it on the wall, and that I removed that little piece, this corner piece, and I guess maybe had I paid more attention, I would have noted that that cutout would have lined up with that piece, and removing it prior would have made it easier to install. I do like that it actually shows you what temperature it's running at up there on the wall. And if I take the remote, I can click on temperature, and there I just bumped it up to 73, and that's exactly what's on the remote. So if I can show you that. So that's cool. And you can actually see what you're setting it at. Anyway, also if you turn on the swing function, that lights up, and that's where the door goes up and down. And so that's kind of neat. There's other options on here. I haven't really looked into the remote so much, but at this point I'm just more satisfied with having it running. The instructions, probably not the best instructions as far as I'm concerned. I may have shown some of these, and in this, the instructions they show here are, just basic type of things, not a hard detail like I like to see. The wiring was a little tricky, getting the stiff 10-2 wire. May have been better off to use a stranded wire, so that's another thing. It's kind of hard to get it in underneath those screws. I had to make sure, what was the other thing? And it's showing these filters here on the front, but it doesn't really show you exactly where they go, and I don't know, what these are meant to do. They give you this picture, but that's not the same as what I have. Mine has, I think, 3 of these segments, so I don't know what the point is of adding 2 on the front there.
Another thing I'll point out, this is showing it up on cinder blocks or some sort of a block, and whenever I install or set that on the actual concrete that I poured outside, it wanted me to see if I can find it. Yeah, you can see it there. It's sitting up on higher blocks as well. I don't know what this really does, but it wanted me to install this little drain, this elbow. Well, I did, but unless you have it up on blocks like this, it won't sit flat. It actually will rest on that elbow. I ended up with probably a good half-inch gap between the base and the feet. Now I could go back and add some spacing, but I don't know that I need to. I'm not sure exactly. You know, it says it's a drain, which it is a low point, and you may gain something by having that drain off to the side. I don't know. I wanted to point out one other thing that I think is relative to the install. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the lines, the thicker line is one length, and then these two smaller lines here are smaller or shorter for some reason. So I had to split the casing back to be able to attach them both. You can see the difference from there to the corner of this other line. And this one is actually a braided steel line. After it leaves this, you know, the copper, and there you can see it's braided steel. So it's, you know, pretty flexible as far as that goes. But I don't know why they're two different lengths, but just something else I wanted to point out. But otherwise, the unit itself, I mean, it's super quiet inside and outside, and so I'm happy with that. So now I guess I'll do some more cleanup in the shop and enjoy this AC. Hope this video was helpful. You know, as usual, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. If not, well, that's fine too. But once again, thanks for watching. I don't know why. Oh, my shoulders.